Hey guys, it's John again here, host of Where Do We Grow Now. I am joined by Dr. Lenny Lomax, who's also the founder and CEO of Ultimaxx Health. Lenny, thank you for joining
Hey,
me.
yeah, man, good to be with you. Good to be with you.
Yeah, I appreciate your time today. So, 10,000 foot view. I always like to start these by allowing my guests to tell us a little bit about themselves and the brand or business that they're working on. So, please.
Now, first, humble, grateful. Thanks for having me. As you know, I'm an orthopedic surgeon. It's my background. I been a long time athlete, so I was a nutrition plant based guy. So practicing medicine, I was quite frustrated in terms of Western medicine, in terms of how we practice and how we deliver care, and the care is often toxic. So I decided to do something about it, and we founded a pharma company, a biopharma company that develops plant-derived medicine, and we validate natural products. Clinically validate them. Back with science. Try to take a personalized approach to things, and we've been doing it for a long time. So I'm happy to see things trending somewhat in the right direction with more companies trying to start doing similar things. So we focus on really mitigating public health issues, serious problems, but using a plant-derived approach, as it relates to medicine and natural products. So that's kind of 30,000 foot view. A lot of science behind it. A lot more detail, of course, and we work with and we collaborate with around the world.
And it's mostly, I mean, I know one of your hero products is more for pain management, right?
Yeah, one of them, one of the first I worked on, was really worried about prior to even the opioid crisis. I was worried about opioids because they really shouldn't be used for chronic pain, and even the OTC products. I mean, a lot of them just they have non-optimal safety profiles if you take them for prolonged periods of time. So I worked on a natural alternative to opioids and NSAIDs, something that could work really well for pain, acute pain, chronic, as well as inflammation. Works really well.
So it's a little different than what we usually do. Obviously, with marketing, we talk about marketing and business, but what I was excited to talk to you about was more because it's kind of merging both philosophies of lifestyle and wellness and health with marketing because you have the brand and the business. Um, you know, it's something that's pretty close to me in the sense of I've been in the supplement space before, and and you and I have talked offline about what I've been taking myself, in terms of longevity and some of the supplements that are out there. Do you feel like there's um, a lot of misleading things that are out there with a lot of these gurus and these health experts that are carrying somewhat of a bias or just providing just false information in general with how fast people can get information these days?
Yeah, man, it's that's something actually we're working on now to help kind of solve. We teamed up with some pretty brilliant, tech folks, former Google people, and but yeah, the short answer is yes, man. Unfortunately, there's a ton of information out there. You don't know what's right, what's good for you. You don't know, what's the source of it. There's a lot of influence depending on where the information is coming from. So, I always kind of tell people, like I told you, it's like, even with any product, even in ours, it's like, okay, number one, how do you know that it works? You got to prove that, right? There should be some type of validation. In the natural space is not required. So that's one of the big problems. So it's a lot of marketing that can be effective. And then more importantly, how do you know it works for you, right? In terms of how you kind of follow things along to see if you're getting any truly, data driven, verifiable, results, not just subjective. Oh, well, I think I feel okay, or like really understand if that's working for you or not. And then taking things even further to make things more personalized. It's not one size fits all. I mean, medicine has been really flawed with that in terms of how it was based on pharmacology and working on a receptor or compound over a range of some dose range. But everybody's different. The
Mm-hmm.
genetics are different. Your blood type is going to be different. So we need to be. It's getting better. We're not quite there yet, and so there's we're working on some of those things in terms of using technology to kind of really refine and be more precise. In terms of how we produce things that not only work but actually work for you, the person, right?
Yep.
But yeah, it's like kind of wild wild west, and we're trying to help bring some sense and order to it.
So you brought up a good point that I think is really underutilized today for most people, because obviously, there's this like medical culture that, where at least in my optic, is that everyone's pretty quick to prescribe something, right? Without understanding the biology of somebody's, being. I don't know if I'm using the right terminology. I'm not a doctor, of course, but in the sense of bringing up, like you brought, like you mentioned with the blood type. Obviously people react differently to different things and supplements, and um, you know, growing up for me, every time that I got sick, it was like, hey, give him a Z pack, give him a Z pack, give him a Z pack, right? And then later find out that Z packs aren't that good for you, especially because most people are getting treated because it's a common cold, and that antibiotics not going to do anything for a virus, right?
Yeah.
So, is the brand and the business is Ultimaxx also, aside from that, you mentioned working on some new things. Um, Education, I think, is a big piece of it. So, how do you guys plan? I know we've talked about marketing on the side, but are there things that you're working on now to help bring light to helping understand? You know, it's not just a matter of this worked for that person; it's going to work for you. How do you feel like there needs to be a bridge between education and action?
Yeah, no, that's actually a very good point, John. That's something that's really important for us and changing, over time, really how we approach it, right? Because like the way medicine is taught, in Western medicine anyway, is by design. It's structured, right, in terms of how we get trained, from a pharmacological standpoint, and it's very specific and for an expected outcome, right? And what I've seen over the years, and it's clear. Just look at just the industry itself in pharma. It's like $1.4 trillion industry that kind of started in late 1800s, early 1900s. Prior to that, it was all plant medicine. So most drugs come from a plant source. Everything we did prior to that was botanical in origin. And then after that, some folks decided they were going to change that and create new industries and make a lot of money. So medicine basically changed at that point. So you got 100 plus years of just that type of robotic training. So, physicians and my colleagues, I call them some of the smartest, ignorant people you would ever meet because it's by design. So that's all you know. That's all you know. And then it's hard to get them to change anything because we're very robotic in nature. Now, I'm rare because I had an interest in plant medicine prior to med school. I was played 3 sports. I was a nutrition guy. I started learning about this prior. So I had an interest in, I said, well, this doesn't make sense. If all these medicines come from plants, why are we not taking, more advantage of that? And so, but once you get in and understand, how these systems work, you have to understand what you're dealing with and understand, okay, well, if ultimately I want to change this behavior and teach people, this is the way we should be looking at it, you have to have a pretty comprehensive strategy to deal with that because, it doesn't happen overnight because people are entrenched in that philosophy. And then you also have to prove things, right? Because people are like, well, this is how we do it. Why should we believe you? You got to prove it. So we take a comprehensive approach to it to change this behavior over time in terms of educating not just our colleagues. I kind of look at it like where do we want to put the lion's share of our effort? Do we want to try to deprogram and reprogram people who are stubborn, stuck in their ways? Do we want to try to program people the right way, for lack of better terminology, but give them the right information early on so they can make better decisions and understand, what's good for them? And then also teaching the public, right? Because there's truly power, significant power. The public has a tremendous amount of power. If they demand something, they want something, then generally there's some action or there's some change, right? You see that in a lot of industries, even more like last 5 plus years, with younger generations demanding, hey, we don't want that, we want this. And even some of the worst actors, have had to start changing because it was about money and economics, right? For them, they change. So education is huge, and we're focused on creating solutions, teaching the public, taking our case really to the public, and then collaborating with like-minded, organizations, colleagues around the world who have a similar mission in terms of taking a more natural approach to mitigating health problems, optimizing health in general. You talked about longevity a little earlier. Got a ton of people running around talking about anti-aging or longevity and all these things. At the end of the day, if people are living longer but they're sick all the time, what's the point of that? So really, it's about keeping people healthy and optimizing health so you have optimal longevity or healthy aging, right?
Right.
So, but education is a huge part of that, and changing behavior over time, because it's gonna, you know, it takes a while for people to want to change something, and then a lot of times they won't, especially if they're just so used to doing it. For behavior modification is just tough.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you say that too. Like for me personally, it's um, or the saying is it takes what 21 days to form a habit, and it takes a lifetime to keep a habit. Um, and I think a lot of the things that are going on today are very habitual with how people eat, how people exercise, how people sleep, um, and one thing that I've been watching a lot on social media as far as people talking about has been fasting has been coming up a lot pretty frequently too, and um, it's that mixed with some of the other misinformation that's out there. People talking about you can't eat this, you can't eat that. How would you? It's probably a little bit of a bias, but how would you rank things like nutrition, sleep, supplementation, exercise? Those I think those are the four pillars of a healthy lifestyle. How would you rank them as far as importance?
Oh man, I mean, extremely important. I mean, you know, I've always personally taken the approach of like mind, body, spirit. In terms of mentality, having a strong mind. But if you're not getting enough rest, you can't even optimize. You can't perform at a high level. And it's ironic I'm saying that because the way I was trained, over the years, we didn't get a lot of sleep. So, but what you learn when you understand physiology is critical because even in terms of stages of sleep, the restorative part of sleep is really important. That's when the body's producing stem cells and healing itself and detoxifying. Those things are important, but it's like if you talked about education, people don't understand these things, if it's not taught, which our education system does not, it should be taught early on, like elementary school, preschool. We should be starting, at a very early level, basic things, right? And then you could, of course, escalate it, as people get older, different stages. But teaching these things about, proper sleep and mitigating stress, the importance of basic nutrition, understanding what that means, but even also what it means for you, because people, you can kind of get to your point in these fad diets and things get popular, intermittent fasting or don't eat this like one of the things that really kind of annoys me is people always talking about don't eat carbs and this the other. They don't know what they're talking about, like or sugar. They don't even understand there's different types, right? Is it fructose? Is it glucose? They don't understand any of it. They're just saying it. And one is, absorbed, like fructose is absorbed in the duodenum. So it doesn't need insulin, right? Versus, glucose, it's different. So, insulin is released from the pancreas. But people don't understand this stuff. They're just saying it because of something someone else said or it's popular or intermittent fasting, which is good. Like I do that routinely, and that's just an extended period of time of not eating. So you can call it whatever you want, but that's what it is, right? And then, of course, if you're going for a prolonged period of time, not consuming some, caloric intake, then your body, being the machine it is, this unbelievable machine God gave us, it's going to use the fuel that it has, right? So it uses, obviously it burns the sugar first. Glycogen is stored, it burns that up. Then it may go into ketosis, which is not necessarily bad unless it's excessive, right? Like I just had a conversation with a colleague yesterday who's been on an all meat diet following a guy, who's a YouTube guy or, I think he's a doc, I can't remember, but they're pushing that, right? All meat.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, listen, but you got to follow certain things, right? If that's all you're doing, you're getting high protein, you're not getting anything else, you got to worry about, excessive protein, ketones and, overloading your kidneys. But, but people don't understand these things. They're just kind of following along. So not necessarily that they're bad. They just need to understand what they're doing and why, right? And then also be able to monitor. So absolutely, those four things that you talked about are critically important, and they need to be, optimized for the person, for the individual. And I think, even starting on the front end, just understanding what it is that people understand, having these core principles, but then understand what is it that you're trying to accomplish for yourself, for your family, like for your, as a family, your children, what type of, health goals do you have? How are you trying to really just, live your life routinely, having some fundamental principles, and then kind of understanding, okay, how you go about doing that. But it's so much confusion out here because it's like
Right.
information overload,
Yeah.
information overload.
Well, I think there's like kind of two main buckets, right? Because people, they obviously will attract to the Joe Rogans of the world and the people that he has on, and just kind of take that that word for face value, which I'm sure for the most part it's mostly accurate. I think he does have a lot of experts on, and a lot of the stuff is science backed. But like you said, people don't understand the repercussions of certain things when you're making these drastic changes, whether it is longer term fasting or going to a meat only diet, and not understanding that could crush your kidneys if you don't hydrate enough. That's a pretty significant, obviously, impact, and I'm sure they no one wants to deal with issues with their kidneys. But and then there's obviously information that they get from like the government, and and what they say is right, and there's obviously the in between. So I think the important thing to take away is how brands like Ultimaxx and anyone else who's involved in health and wellness, and especially with supplementation, pharmaceutical, how do they educate the right way so it's easy to digest for somebody who's like the average Joe, who's just going to listen to a podcast and say, oh, he said it's correct, so I'm going to do what he says. And then obviously just educate them. So obviously there's tons and tons of uh, you know cases and studies that are done on all these things, but the average person also can't read and understand what it means too. So how do you unpack it? How do you deliver it in a way? I've actually found a couple different influencers on TikTok in specific that will almost counterclaim against what people are saying that are not correct, and have a complete bias and no factual data to back up certain claims. So there are some people out there that are picking up on it, and I definitely eager to see how you guys continue to continue that trend.
No, I would actually we love to. It's like I look at that too, man. Even you make reference to those folks, kind of trying to be the counter. I look at it as kind of debate, right? And it's healthy, right? And even bringing some of those folks into kind of our ecosystem, like what we're working on right now, is we're creating a basically a digital platform. We have been put it on mothballs for a while because technology wasn't advanced enough to where it is now for us to be able to do it in a way that's efficient and convenient for people and easy for people to understand, right? Like, one of the things I never forget, many years ago, I was working on some technology with one of my buddies who was a doctor in education that was trying to create a distance learning platform for nutrition and exercise, and do it with the guys who created Blackboard. So I was creating the content. First thing he said, hey, Lynn, man, you can't, you got to rate this at sixth grade level. I'm like, what are you talking about? That's crazy to me. Like I never agree with that, because I think you need to raise the level. I mean, you need to meet people where they are and create things in a way they can understand, absorb, not go over their head. But I don't think we need to be dumbing down stuff all the time for people. I think that's a huge problem that actually contributes to these problems we're talking about.
Yeah.
You have a society that's ignorant. They're like sheep. So, I mean, we need to, be cognizant of,
You don't want to
people.
enable it.
Right, exactly. And it's
Yeah.
horrible, right? I see it. It's very frustrating. But at the end of the day, we're creating some solutions that will be able to provide people with access to this relevant information that they need to help make better decisions, informed decisions, in real time. Like, where people are, out here looking, trying to search for a product, or like, how do they go about doing that? Like, reviews, or someone says, hey, maybe try this, or like you said on these podcasts, like, oh, I use this all the time. It's influences. But how do you make that decision what's it really based on, right? Is it information that you can get, in the palm of your hand or in a platform that you have access to or you're part of a community and it's trusted, but it's information that is being validated, right? And then there's an ongoing process. So even if someone says, hey, you know what? I heard this podcast or, someone, this doc said, hey, man, try this product, okay. You have at least some criteria that you can utilize to gauge whether it's something even worth trying, but also is relevant to what you're trying to accomplish in the first place. But then taking it further to like what I said in the beginning is making sure that you actually get some quantifiable, data to validate that actually is doing what it's supposed to. And then continue to build, kind of this war chest, data that continues to raise standards in the industry in general. Because, people come out with products left and right, or, you got celebrities always pitching stuff, or, Joe Rogan, I like Joe, but, he's an entertainer and,
Mhm.
they push products too. And, that's just the nature of the business. But at the end of the day, we say, okay, that's fine. Hey, make never wrong making profit, but do it with purpose, right? So we're focused on purpose-driven mission to improve people's health, optimize their well-being, and then also give them access to relevant information that's going to really help them make better decisions and raise standards in the industry. Just hold people to account, you know,
Yeah.
and make them prove it, basically.
Wow. Cool. All right. Well, this was really insightful. This 20 minutes blew by pretty quickly, Lenny. So I appreciate you dropping some knowledge bombs. Where can they find Ultimaxx?
Yeah, now you can find us, online. We generally do heavy, we're in pretty online presence at Ultimaxx, health.com, Ultimaxx with two X's, Ultimaxx health.com. We got some pretty cool stuff coming, like I told you about before, based on some of the countermeasures work we did during COVID. Pretty awesome product that we developed that is going to be pretty awesome, help protect people from SARS, flu, and all kinds of other things that we have to deal with, and optimize your health in general. So some pretty cool people involved with that. Some special forces guys, some other
Nice.
folks that you'll be familiar with. And but again, our focus is on better protecting people, keeping people healthy so they don't have problems, right, going forward. And optimizing their health.
Awesome. Well, we may have you on again because aside from marketing, this is one of my other passions and something I'm really interested in. So hopefully we'll see you next time.
Yeah, we have to get you on ours too, man. We got the guys putting together a podcast now, pretty cool. With some other folks, some
Cool.
retired pro athletes and military. It's going to be pretty cool. But again, this what we're launching soon is really going to have heavy emphasis on protecting people, protecting kids, our families, and doing a better job because we could do a lot better.
Awesome. Count me in.
All right, man. I'm gonna hold you
All
to
right.
it, buddy.
Thanks, Lenny.
All right, take care now. God bless.